During a big presentation, my department head interrupted me and laughed. Maybe we should let someone smarter explain, she's trying her best, bless her. Everyone chuckled awkwardly as I stared at the floor. That night, I sent a polite 2-week notice to his boss's boss, along with a full proposal they immediately hired me to lead. Without him, I never really planned on getting revenge. That kind of thing always sounded dramatic, like something that only happens in movies. I just wanted to do my job, keep my head down, and maybe move up slowly over time. That's how it's supposed to work, right? But everything changed during one meeting. One stupid, humiliating meeting. This all happened last year in Charlotte, North Carolina. I worked at a mid-sized software company. I'd been there 6 years in the marketing department. Not management. Not some executive. Just one of those reliable people who knew how to fix a spreadsheet in a panic, who answered emails late at night, who always came in early to make sure the printer worked before a big client call. My title was Senior Marketing Analyst. Which sounds fancy, but it mostly meant I handled data, campaign numbers, conversion rates, retention analysis, and building reports no one wanted to read but everyone wanted to show off in PowerPoints. For the record, I was good at my job. Not loud, not flashy, but smart. I worked hard. I made sure our department didn't make dumb mistakes. I had my own system for catching patterns other people missed. Then came this big quarterly strategy meeting. It was my time to present a project I'd been working on for months, a new campaign model that predicted customer drop-off before it even started. It used a mix of behavioral tracking, prior purchasing data, and demographic patterns. Honestly, it worked better than I expected. I'd tested it 10 different ways, and the results were strong. It could have saved the company a lot of money. I put everything I had into that report. I even asked Mark, my department head, if he wanted to go over it ahead of time. He said, just drop it in the deck. You've got it. He didn't even look at it. Not once. So that Friday morning, I stood in a room with 20 other people, department heads, regional managers, a few directors. All wearing the same kind of dead expression. I wasn't nervous. I had rehearsed this in my apartment for a week straight. My slides were clean. My numbers checked out. I got maybe 2 minutes in. I was explaining the correlation between drop-off and user inactivity in weeks 2 through 4. It was the core of the whole thing. That's when Mark leaned back in his chair, laughed a little, and said, maybe we should let someone smarter explain, she's trying her best, bless her. There was this pause. Then people laughed. Not all of them. Some just smiled awkwardly. One guy near the end of the table actually winced and looked away. I felt like the floor dropped out under me. My mouth went dry. I don't even remember finishing the presentation. I just remember my voice going flat. I stopped making eye contact. My hands were shaking a little. No one said anything after. Not one person pulled me aside. Not even in the elevator. Back at my desk, Mark stopped by and said, you know I was joking, right? Just trying to keep things light. You're not mad, are you? I just nodded. But I was done. That night, I stayed late. Everyone had already left. I reworked my 2-week notice. But instead of sending it to Mark or even HR, I sent it straight to Karen Wu, the SVP of Operations. Mark's boss's boss. Along with my resignation, I attached the full proposal. I didn't pitch it. I didn't beg. I didn't even say much. I just wrote, this is the model I've been developing over the last 3 months. I'm stepping away from my current role. If this proposal has value to your team or any other, I'm open to a conversation. I figured maybe she'd forward it to someone. Maybe I'd hear something in a few weeks. Or maybe not at all. I didn't care anymore. I was just tired of being dismissed. But the next morning, I got an email directly from her assistant. She wanted to talk. That day. At 11. I took the call from my car, sitting in a Target parking lot. She said, "I read through your work. It's smart. Very smart. Has anyone supported this with budget?" I told her no. She asked if I'd be willing to walk her team through it. That turned into 3 interviews over the next 4 days. One was with the VP of Strategic Growth. One was with the Director of Product. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just tired, and I told them the truth about the model and how it worked. By Friday, I had a new offer in my inbox. It was a new role, Head of Strategic Marketing Initiatives. They were creating it around me. A new team, a real budget, no Mark. I wouldn't even be in the same department anymore. I'd be reporting directly to the VP, 2 levels above him. I signed it. That next Monday, the all-hands meeting was held in the main conference room. Mark sat at the front, smirking like usual, tapping his pen. He had no idea. Then Karen Wu got up and gave her usual updates, quarter revenue, new clients, blah blah. And then she said, "We've approved a new strategic marketing initiative focused on predictive customer behavior. Leading that will be my name, who many of you already know." You could have heard a pin drop. Mark looked like someone had just slapped him across the face. His eyes flicked toward me. I didn't look back. After the meeting, he tried to wave me down. I ignored him. Later that day, I saw he'd sent a meeting invite titled "Quick Catch Up." I declined. I was busy. Busy building my team. Busy working with people who didn't need to put others down to feel powerful. Busy not giving a damn about his opinion anymore. The first few weeks in the new role felt like breathing fresh air after being stuck in a windowless room for years. I had a new office on the 9th floor, 2 floors above where my old team sat. Mark was still down there. Still holding meetings where nothing got done. Still pretending he ran the place. But I wasn't just the analyst anymore. I had a team of my own. 3 direct reports, 2 interns, and full access to budget planning. I worked directly with leadership. When they wanted real numbers, real projections, they came to me. The funny thing? I wasn't even trying to get back at him. I just wanted to do the job right. But Mark couldn't let it go. At first, it was small stuff. He stopped replying to emails that had both of us copied. When I asked for campaign data that lived with his team, they couldn't find it or were still working on it. Then one day I caught wind that he'd told one of the newer execs that I stole his project and ran with it behind his back. That part really pissed me off. Because he had never touched that proposal. Not once. Never asked about it. Never gave input. Didn't even look at the slides before I presented them. I wasn't going to play games. So I requested a sit-down with HR. I laid out everything. The project history, the timeline, the emails, the version logs, even screenshots of the original file creation under my name. They said they'd look into it. 2 days later, Mark called a last-minute meeting titled, "Clarifying Campaign Ownership." I didn't go. Neither did the VP. That meeting was cancelled by 9:15 a.m. After that, I thought maybe he'd back off. He didn't. Instead, he tried to loop himself into my team's work. He started sending long-winded feedback emails. Stuff like "This doesn't align with previous departmental direction" or "This isn't the voice our brand team signed off on." Half the time he wasn't even CC'd, just inserted himself in like we were still under his thumb. One of my interns asked if we still had to follow his guidance. I told them, flat out, no. He has no say over this team. Mark didn't like that. Later that week, my calendar showed a review session, scheduled by him. No subject. No invite message. Just an hour blocked out during lunch. I deleted it. Then he sent a Slack message, "Hey, we need to clear the air. Leadership's getting confused about who owns what. Let's hash it out face to face." I didn't respond. Instead, I sent a memo to the VP and Karen Wu. It was brief. I told them Mark was interfering in a project he wasn't authorized for, and it was slowing us down. I attached screenshots, dates, and examples. That afternoon, I was called into a meeting with HR again. Only this time, Mark was there too. He looked irritated but smug, like he had come in to defend his turf. The HR rep asked him directly why he kept trying to direct my team. He said, "Well, I just want to make sure we're aligned across departments." I said, "That's what the weekly sync is for. You've skipped the last 3. He didn't respond. HR asked if we needed a formal separation between department responsibilities. I said yes. Mark tried to object, but the HR rep shut it down. After that, he went quiet. No more emails. No more Slacks. Just silence. Then came the twist. A few weeks later, I got a random message from someone on the finance team. They asked if I had a few minutes to explain a line item on one of our marketing reports. I opened the file they sent, and froze. It was a budget breakdown. But it wasn't mine. It was from Mark's department. And somehow, it had my name listed as the owner of a project I had never touched. Along with about $30,000 in consulting costs charged to a vendor I'd never even heard of. It looked like he was laundering his own team's failed projects under my name. I didn't freak out. I didn't say anything right away. I just downloaded the document. Cross-referenced every line item. Pulled timestamps. Searched our internal communications. Everything. Then I booked one meeting. Karen Wu, VP of Finance, HR, and me. No Mark. When they joined the Zoom, I dropped a folder in the chat. Before this becomes a bigger issue, I want to flag something serious. Someone is attaching my name to budget lines I didn't authorize. I have the receipts. I went line by line. Calm, measured. No drama. They were dead silent when I finished. Karen leaned forward and said, "We'll need to open an internal audit." I nodded. The next day, Mark's calendar was wiped clean. I didn't know what that meant yet. But I had a feeling things were about to get a lot uglier. Mark disappeared for 3 days. No emails. No Slack messages. No one saw him at his desk. His usual 9 a.m. busy stroll through the office didn't happen. It was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't ask questions. I stayed focused. My team was mid-launch on our first official campaign under the new initiative. The model I'd built was showing strong early results. Early churn dropped 11% in just 2 weeks. Upper leadership was excited. But something was off. On Thursday, I got a strange email from IT. It said my access credentials had been flagged due to multiple high-level file permissions being changed under my name. They wanted to confirm if I'd requested expanded access to archived vendor files. I hadn't. I replied and asked for details. They sent back a screenshot, and there it was again. My name. Used as the access credential on folders I didn't know existed. 2 of them were old vendor projects from before I'd even changed roles. One included a folder labeled Q2 Dummy Reports, Alt Drafts. The word dummy jumped out at me. I asked IT who had last edited them. The audit trail said, "Initial access by Kingston at Mark's email." So not only was he trying to bury failed projects under my name, he was logging in using my credentials, or at least spoofing them somehow. I immediately escalated to Karen. She looped in legal. That's when things took a turn. The legal team asked me to come in for a private meeting. Not Zoom. Not Teams. In person. Conference room C on the executive floor. I walked in. Karen was already seated, along with a woman I hadn't met before, company counsel. She slid a folder across the table toward me. Inside was a printed transcript. Anonymized. But it was a tip. An internal whistleblower had come forward. Mark had allegedly been using access from the old project management software, one that hadn't been shut down properly, to edit document histories, backdate approvals, and forge digital sign-offs. And most of them had my name on them. He hadn't just been trying to interfere, he was trying to bury me under fake work. Work tied to budget misuse. If I hadn't caught it early, I could have been blamed for tens of thousands in misallocated funds. I asked, why would he go that far? Karen looked at me and said, because you replaced him. Not officially. But everyone sees it that way. Apparently, after I was promoted, he lost 2 of his high-performing team members. They asked to be transferred to me. Upper leadership stopped looping him into early-stage planning. He had gone from center stage to being pushed to the side. And he couldn't take it. The investigation opened quietly. I was told not to discuss it with anyone. Not even my own team. It was strange walking into work every day pretending nothing was happening, when I knew what was really going on behind the scenes. Then on a Monday morning 2 weeks later, a new twist. I got a call from my old coworker, Dana, who still worked in Mark's original department. She whispered, "Have you checked your desk today?" I hadn't. I walked back down to the 7th floor, where my old desk still sat empty. No one used it, but I kept a few personal things in the drawer. I opened it. Inside was a manila envelope. No name. No label. I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots. Emails between Mark and an outside vendor. Personal Gmail. Not company accounts. Discussing kickbacks for extending their contract and inflating their reported results. And one email in particular stood out, I'll slide it through under the new initiative. She's too busy trying to prove herself to notice. He was planning to use my new role to approve a vendor deal that kicked money back to him, and he thought I'd be too distracted to catch it. I walked straight upstairs and handed the envelope to Karen. She looked at it, looked at me, and said, "Okay. That changes everything." That afternoon, Mark was finally suspended pending investigation. But I had the feeling he wouldn't go quietly. And I was right. The day after Mark was suspended, our office turned tense. People were whispering in hallways. I got looks from people who never spoke to me before. A few congratulated me, quietly, like I'd just survived some disaster. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed. Legal told me to stay quiet. But somehow, rumors still spread. People were saying Mark had been caught stealing. Others said he'd framed someone. A few thought he was about to sue the company. I didn't say anything. I stayed focused on my work. I thought it was almost over. I was wrong. A week later, someone from legal asked to speak with me again. They looked nervous. They said something had come up during the investigation. Something I needed to see for myself. They pulled out a printout of a report. It was from 2 years earlier. A budget approval for a project I did work on, back when I was still under Mark. The numbers were wrong. Like, way wrong. Somehow, $15,000 in research expenses had been moved into the approval line. But I had never approved that part. In fact, I had flagged it back then. I remembered writing an email about it, saying the cost looked inflated. But there was no trace of that email anymore. It had been deleted. I told legal. They pulled archived backups. Sure enough, they found my email in a server cache. I had said exactly what I remembered, "This looks off, who approved the research expenses?" Mark had replied, saying, "All cleared. Thanks." But the file in the current system showed my name next to the budget line. He'd started rewriting my work long before my promotion. He'd been slowly adjusting documents, shifting approvals, and pushing shady costs under my name in case he ever needed a fall guy. He didn't just hate me for replacing him. He had planned to bury me in his mess from the start. Legal asked if I wanted to press charges. I hesitated. I wasn't sure. But then I saw a final report. It showed that Mark had received over $50,000 in personal kickbacks over 2 years from preferred vendors. All signed off with forged approvals, many under my name. That was it. I said yes. The company fired Mark with cause. No severance. No benefits. They filed a formal lawsuit against him, and they gave full evidence to local authorities. He was arrested 2 weeks later, fraud, embezzlement, identity misuse, and falsifying business records. It made the local business news in Charlotte. But the real fallout came after. Turns out, this wasn't the first company where Mark had pulled stunts like this. After the news broke, 2 former companies came forward. One said he had quietly been let go after financial concerns. Another said he had resigned unexpectedly during an internal audit. No one had ever followed up. Now, with real charges against him, he was being fully investigated across multiple states. His name was mud in the entire industry. I thought that would feel like closure. But then something unexpected happened. I got called into the VP's office. Karen was there. So was someone from legal. They looked serious. They said, "There's one more thing. We have to talk about how this happened under your name." I froze. Even though I didn't do anything wrong, the truth was, my name had been on those reports. I hadn't checked old approvals closely. I hadn't followed up when things felt weird. I trusted Mark. I stayed quiet when he embarrassed me in public. I let a lot slide. And that had almost cost me everything. They told me I wasn't in trouble. But I would need to sign a formal statement acknowledging that I had overlooked early discrepancies and failed to flag them again after my promotion. It was company protocol, not punishment. But it stung. I signed it. Because they were right. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about owning what I let happen by staying silent for too long. A month after Mark was fired, something incredible happened. Karen pulled me into a leadership meeting. She said, "We're restructuring your entire initiative into a permanent division. You'll be promoted to Director of Strategic Analytics." She paused and added, "You're going to need a second in command. Start thinking about who you want to bring up." It hit me then. Everything I had built, every quiet night alone with data, every ignored email, every time I'd been brushed off, it had finally led here. Not because I played the game better. But because I stopped playing it on their terms. I never saw Mark again, but I read in a follow-up article that he took a plea deal. 18 months in federal prison. He lost his retirement. His LinkedIn disappeared. His name turned up in industry blacklists. Poetic? Maybe. But what mattered more was that I learned something. Revenge doesn't always look like shouting in a meeting or making a dramatic exit. Sometimes, it looks like keeping your receipts, staying quiet, waiting for the right moment. And letting the truth crush them harder than you ever could. And sometimes, it also means looking in the mirror and asking why you let it go on so long. That was my mistake. But I learned. And I won't forget.